We're back. We are back again this week. Welcome, everyone. I am Jan Jeremias, and I've spent over 35 years involved in health in one way or another. And for the past 20, I've blended my clinical research roots with a love of holistic wellness to support both people and their pets in living together longer and much fuller lives. I find great joy in helping others see the whole picture of their well being, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and turning that into a simple, meaningful blueprint for health. I'm deeply moved by creativity and by connection, and so I'm really grateful to share this path with my dear friend and collaborator, Mary Jane McQueen, MJ, and all of you. We believe really at the heart of everything is bringing kindness into the world, one creative project, one breath, and one conversation at a time. So, a heartfelt thank you to Mary Jane, and a big thank you to all of you here and to all of you out there for showing up and for listening. This community shines because of you. Mary Jane, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Hey everyone, I know those present know who I am, but for recording, I am Mary Jane or MJ, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. And For those that may not know me, who may be listening to the recording, I am the founder of my own creative studio, MJ McQueen Creative Studio, where I help heart-centered entrepreneurs really step into their light, find their voice, and share the gifts in a way that feels true and authentic. Because when we're connected to who we really are, that's when the real magic happens. And that's when we truly connect with more fully with others. And as always, I'm so honored to be here with all of you, and of course with my beautiful friend Jan Jeremias, who, as I always mention, inspires me every day to shine brightly. And I just love the way this community has been growing, and it feels like we're weaving this amazing tapestry together with all the vibrant threads of creativity, love, and light. So thank you, truly, for being part of Spirit Born Imaginings.
Great. Thank you, Mary Jane. Should we share our poem?
Yes,
Yeah, you chose one of my favorite. Well, I love Shel Silverstein, so you know.
just take a drink of tea so I don't hopefully have a voice by the end. um, yeah, so as you mentioned, it's by Shel Silverstein and it's called The Giving Tree. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns to play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much. And the tree was happy, but time went by. And the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I'm too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money." "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I'm too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife and I want children, and so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. Come, boy, she whispered, come and play. I am too old and sad to play, said the boy. I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat? Cut down my trunk and make a boat, said the tree. Then you can sail away and be happy. And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away, and the tree was happy, but not really. And after a long time, the boy came back again. I am sorry, boy, said the tree, but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone. My teeth are too weak for apples, said the boy. My branches are gone, said the tree. You cannot swing on them. I'm too old to swing on branches, said the boy. My trunk is gone, said the tree. You cannot climb. I'm too tired to climb, said the boy. I am sorry, sighed the tree. I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I'm just an old stump. I'm sorry. I don't need very much now, said the boy. Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired. Well, said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could. Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest. And the boy did, and the tree was happy.
What a wonderful poem. So we welcome you to Charity Begins at Home, serving the self to serve the world. We welcome you to this circle of reflection, presence, and care, a space to slow down, breathe, and reconnect with what it truly means to serve. Spiritual traditions around the world say the same thing. Charity starts at home, says Dr. Jonathan Ellerby. It's a mistake to think true healing can begin in any other way. It must be backed up by our consciousness, or it is not sustainable. These words remind us that genuine service, the kind that endures and uplifts, begins within. When we honor our own needs, nurture our hearts, and act from awareness rather than obligation, our giving becomes sustainable and deeply rooted in love. Too often, we equate service with self sacrifice. Yet true service doesn't arise from depletion, it blossoms from balance. When we are grounded in our own wholeness, our compassion has space to expand naturally, effortlessly, reaching those around us. Each moment we pause to care for ourselves through rest, reflection, or mindful nourishment, we replenish the well from which our giving flows. Service in its truest form is not limited to acts of charity or external deeds. It is found in the tone of our words, the way we listen, the patience we offer, and the kindness we extend, both to ourselves and to others. Charity begins at home, not only in the literal sense, but in the spiritual one. It begins in the heart, in our own inner landscape. And when we speak gently to ourselves, honor our limits, and allow space for healing, we create a ripple effect. The inner alignment radiates outward, touching family, community, and beyond. Service then becomes less about doing and more about being, a reflection of love in motion. And as we gather today, may this be a moment to pause and turn inward, to notice where compassion for the self might open new pathways for compassion for others. Remember that you too are deserving of care, time, and tenderness. And by serving yourself with awareness and grace, you prepare your heart to serve the world in a way that is both authentic and sustainable. So, welcome. May this time together nourish your spirit, renew your strength, and remind you that sustainable service begins with conscious care for the self.
Such beautiful reflection, Jan. Thank you for that. And I love this idea, healing ourselves so we can heal the world. It's so true. You know, sometimes we tend to put everybody else's needs first, and sometimes we forget that we really need to nourish and nurture our own um selves so that we are able to do more and extend more positive energy and out into the world for sure. And it's just an interesting concept is that, by healing our wounds, by healing our whatever wherever we feel depleted, um, how that can have a ripple effect out into the world. And that's really what we're about, Jan, right? Is about kindness, empathy, and compassion and rippling that out to first to self and then rippling that out into the world. And so it's just a, yeah, beautiful reflection. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mary Jane. Yeah, it really is. And as I wrote this and, we read through the week and everything, and I just was reflecting back on times when I gave, when I really had so little to give. I was working from such depletion and what that giving is like how it feels, what kind of emotions it creates, whether they be resentment or exhaustion or just like burnout, and how we just tend to do, or give. And we don't really think of, pausing for ourselves and how I think that comes, obviously, we've talked about this before, that comes from so much of the world for so long saying, if you take time for yourself, but you're being selfish and really it's selfless, but still it's you have this, we all tend to, I think, at least in this country, that's the attitude. And then I think that sometimes when you think about giving, whether it be of your time or whatever, it's kind of like, what do I give to? And and I think that, charity begins at home also reflects not only charity to ourselves, like personally, like making sure you're not depleted, but also beginning sometimes close to home. I think there's a whole sense like, between media and social media and news media, and then, let's say important and successful figures like talking about global charity. And I'm not saying that that's not good, but I think it doesn't matter where you give as long as you give. It doesn't matter who you give to. It's really just this act of giving. Whether you give in your own community, you give in your own neighborhood, you give to your family, or you give abroad and you do some work with there. It doesn't really matter. It's just the energy of giving to me, and giving and a service of love.
Yeah, that's funny because that's what I was just thinking. It's like when you're giving from a place of love, and supporting wherever you can. Yeah, it really does sometimes begin at home. It's true because there's so much need um in the world. It can be overwhelming, but it's like, as we've spoken to before, it's just taking one small step, one small gift, one putting out of positive energy and vibrations into the world and the universe at whole. It's just it's healing for everyone. Um, it may just be a small corner of the world, but if each person does a little piece at a time, imagine the impact that can have as it amplifies over and over again.
Absolutely. I so agree because it is. It's more about, um, that's such a true point. It's like we don't have to do everything, like solve, feel like we're the only ones contributing or the only ones doing it. Because if you look around the world, there are examples everywhere of people who do some pretty amazing work in the world, toward making the world a better place and toward giving, and trying to eradicate some, let's say, um, whether it be hunger or, whatever it is. But I think there are examples of that in, every place in the world. And I think if we look for that, it's more by mass than by one person, and each person contributes to that whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when this week when we were, preparing and reading and doing different things for this conversation today, it's it came up time and time again. We're asking, saying like, why is self-compassion so much harder for us too, let alone rippling it out into the world? But why is it so hard for a lot of us? Um, Not everyone, I guess some people may be more further along in their journey, but why is it so hard for us to practice self-compassion for ourselves? Um, you know, I mean, obviously there's many things you alluded to it a little bit before about saying, it's just like we've people, the world in general, um, reflecting back that, self-care and self-compassion is selfish. But in fact, it's the opposite. It's only by giving ourselves compassion are we able to spread more energy in a positive way throughout the world. It's just, but why is it so hard, Jan?
I know, and it is. Um, and I think it depends on, we are a very success-driven society.
Hmm.
And I think that we measure our success, we measure our goals, depending on your home environment. We're kind of trained in that mode of, like, success at all costs. And usually that cost is to self.
Yes.
And then I think the other thing that happens is how lack of success is handled. So we use success as a huge goal in the world and a huge measurement. But how lack of success or being unsuccessful is viewed, let's say, by when we're growing up, and then by ourselves, and what we choose to measure our success by. And so all of a sudden you're like, you're living and you're being told that, let's say, somehow you're wrong or you're bad because you're not so successful, you aren't being successful or productive. And so I think we grow up, or at least speaking from personal experience, you grow up feeling that you have to always constantly be doing because you're trying to achieve something in some way.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And I guess depending on where we're at in our evolution, our personal evolution too, it's just like, what does it mean to be successful, and how do I define what it means to be successful for myself, and not use what other people's perspectives necessarily are for success. I mean, for me, yeah, obviously everybody wants the comforts of life. There's no avoiding that really. But at the same time, it's like for me, even when we're doing our workshops, Dan, for me, that feels like a success because I see the value that people gain from those experiences. And in fact, as we talk about often afterwards for when we debrief, is how much we get back into ourselves that nourishes our soul. And for me, that's success. Just seeing other people thrive and feeling willing to, like this space as well, to share and be vulnerable and to share ideas together. That's the value of community.
Absolutely, and um, we do get so much. As I think when we brainstorm and we collaborate, or we have great, meaningful conversations, and we're in communities like this or our workshops. It's like we gain so much, and I think you bring up such a beautiful, beautiful point about like how do we measure success. And yes, it is not only the comforts, let's say, of being able to, live comfortably or, um, I always say that I want to make enough that I could offer someone my services for free if they could not afford them. Like that's my measurement. Like that to me would be the greatest success of all, is for someone to want to take a class and come to me and say, well, I really can't afford. And I'd be like, okay, it doesn't, that's fine. It's perfect. And just because I feel like everybody, I don't know, it should be available to everybody. And so that's really now, when I intend or I have an intention of like, oh, okay, abundance or, that's the intention. The intention is so that, I can go out and we, in our workshops possibly or whatever could allow, whatever it be, scholarships or however you want to frame it. Um, and without question. And
Uh,
I think that, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I love that. That's go ahead.
Yeah, but I just thought as we were talking this past week, Mary Jane, and I think we both were talking about like growing up and how charity was very big at home and how interesting it is in the Jewish religion, the Jewish practice. The word for charity is tzedakah. In English, it would be something like Tzedaka or Kah. It has the same root word as the word righteous. So a person who's righteous is called a tzaddik
Mm.
or a tzaddikas, as if it's a woman. And it has the same root word and so that was just kind of like, I don't think I ever realized that. But in addition, like growing up, and we were both reminded of times, we had these little, you had the coin, the cans or the coin boxes for charity or whatever. And
Yeah.
every Friday night before we lit the candles for the Sabbath, my mother would give me change and I would run to put the money in the tzedakah, in the charity box, in the tzedakah box. And the feeling that it had and how exciting it was and how much I wanted to do it. I had no thoughts at all at that age of like keeping the money. Like that wasn't fun at all. It was like putting it in the box and hearing the change clang when it got to the bottom and and all those things and how exciting it was. And so I think there's ways to instill in people like especially young children this whole idea of giving, whether it be money or time or however you envision.
Yeah, exactly. And you put such a visual for it, Jan. I could just picture little Jan running to put change into the box. But yeah, that's I also had similar cha-ching. Jal says, yes, there's something about that rattle of coins for some reason that it really, especially as a child, you feel like even if it's yours or if you're collecting it to give away, you feel like so rich from so little, which is pretty awesome. It's an awesome perspective, but yeah, it's yeah, this nature of service to others is awesome for sure, and also extending that, of course, to ourselves. That was one of the things when we were reading about is like from the Harvard Health about the power of self-compassion, how it really, by giving that compassion to yourself, it enhances empathy and really creates a natural bridge between inner service and outer service. And so the key takeaway, of course, from there is that when we're gentle with ourselves, we become gentler with the world. And some gentleness would be lovely right about now.
Yes, absolutely. And I also, so much love that because you realize how much it does change um your perspective and how much it changes who you are. That kindness to self. And I'm not saying, I mean, that people who, I mean, I drive myself pretty hard and always considered myself a pretty generous person and a lot, I try to be anyway. But there's, but I do think there is this different kind of energy that comes when you really are, when you yourself are full. And there are times when that's not possible. Mary Jane and I got on, we were talking for a moment about caregiving. And I think at times when you're caring for other people, you kind of put yourself off to the side because, like, literally, there is not much time. But on the other hand, uh, even those moments are self-care. And then somebody said to me one day, you just know you're going to pick it back up when you do have the time. It isn't a lot of times forever, hopefully. Oh, I love that, Al. In the Malaysian language, it's sedekah, similar to Jewish. Oh, that's very funny. Love
Yeah,
that.
look at that. Well, it was interesting because while we were having our conversation in preparing for today, I was saying to Jan, I mean, oh, I guess it's primarily in the New Testament, but the word charity is used often for love in as one of the ways it's expressed in the Bible often is charity. And I realize it, because Jan and I are word nerds, so I had to look it up. I was like, it's because the word charity comes from a Greek derivative, and which, yeah, really does speaks to love and caring. And so it was quite interesting to see because I often wondered that when I was younger why the word charity was used, because obviously the context of when they were speaking, it was, to me it was like, as a child, I'm thinking, well, why don't they just say love? But I realized when they translate things back and forth, um that's charity, um perhaps is more encompassing. It's not just one form of love, it's the active form of love in giving back and being of service to others as well. So perhaps that's why the choice of words. But it was just interesting. I love to see the roots of words because I had never thought to look it up before until Jan and I were having the conversation. And I was like, why? Yeah, wait, why is that there? So,
Yeah, I also love that, Mary Jane, because if you look it up, I have it in the meditation. It comes from a Latin word, the source charity, like the word charity. And then the
yes.
Latin word means love. Also, the same thing of like core of the heart. So, so it was very interesting. And I love what you said about it's the active form of love, charity. It's love in action. And so that's really powerful to me, whatever that action be, whether that be action towards yourself, you know, that proactive or active caring for yourself, or whether that be the action you take for someone else. There is this whole aspect of it being, charity is almost like an action word. Al, please.
Yeah, I love how this names actually is quite similar to Jewish, our Malaysian language. So because our some of our Malaysian language also comes from they have the Malays especially, they have the Quran. The Quran comes from Nabi Muhammad, so it's
Uh-huh.
similar. Some words have similarities, like even like Raja as the king, from India is quite similar. So they
Uh-huh.
have like picking some words here and there, all the quite similar words. Just different spelling, that's all, So our words, deka, it's like just asking for donation or ask for kindness and all that. So it's very, very interesting, in this context because the Bible also similar to the Quran and all that. So they are just a different form, comes into a different religion. But I'm not a Muslim, so I'm a Malaysian Chinese. But I know that some words are all picked up from here and there. So and charity is I got a acronym for this pick for charity. So it's pretty long. It's a contribution for C, harnessing, arms, alms giving for A, and reaching insight to you. So it's our act of kindness, that alms giving that we are giving like philanthropically from our heart, even though we may not have that much, but it's a act of giving the necessities, especially to the needy. So charity always in a very form, even during our child days, sometimes like we have many treats in our hands and all that during our childhood. So we will just give out to our friends in the school or the kindergarten and all that. So I mean, it's not necessarily in form of monetary, but it's also like form of like things that you have. Like you have like a piece of cake and all that. You have birthday cakes and all that. So you just share out to all your friends. When you invite them, come over to your house and all that, and having a celebration. So it's just like it's a kind benevolence, benevolence in us. Where we always practice this good kindness within us, to be having a charitable heart and all that. Yeah. So this is what my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Love that. And I loved the ending of the acronym, and so that is just apropos. And I love the whole idea of it doesn't matter what. I mean, it could be your charitable act is a contribution basically to the world. It's like buying sustainable products or, looking into the sources of where you get things so that they're eco-conscious. And so then all of a sudden you're like not only thinking of yourself, and I think that that's to me, it's almost, there's a difference, obviously, self-care, self-compassion to being so like thinking that nothing else in the world matters. And I think that when you have self-care and self-compassion, it's almost like with the underlying tone of I'm going to be better in the world. I'm going to be, I'm going to serve myself and serve the world. And if you are, don't think about anything that you do, then it becomes very self-absorbed and self-focused, I think in a negative way. And so just like being remembering that, like you go out in the world and you have this planet Earth and, we have to take care of our planet, and we can't take advantage of that. And, it was interesting when I mentioned that podcast that I listened to with the interview with Jane Goodall last week. And she said, we're the only species, like we are the only species, man, that like destroys its home, you know, like meaning the earth. No other species of animal or anything does that. And it was kind of like when she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, like we're the only ones who, whether you want to say are, I don't know, are just so believe our brains are just so brilliant that we can create, we can do everything or whatever. But I'm not quite, I'm not articulating it very well. But it was mind-boggling to me that we're the only species. No other animal, no other plant actually sort of sacrifices its environment for whatever money or, growth or whatever. It's kind of like there's always this balance.
I like that. We're back to the balance theme again. There you go. But well, humankind tends to be very self-absorbed. So sometimes I think, um, animals and nature, whatever, do the things that they need to do in order to survive and to maintain a sense of equilibrium. Well, humans, we're so busy doing sometimes that sometimes we forget that the beingness is the key point, and really being cognizant of what's happening around us and being um, aware of extending service to others, and not just be self-serving. I think that's where people get confused when they think self-care, self-love, self-kindness. They think, oh, well, it's selfish. Well, no, it's really if you don't do that, if you just look at it from the other perspective, it's just like we're so self-absorbed that that's really only self-serving and it's of no service to anybody else but us.
Mm. Thank you for articulating what I was having such a hard time saying.
See, I knew what you were talking about. I got your back. It's good.
I was like, I'm not saying this very well, but you knew what I meant. So
I
thank you.
did.
Yeah. But it's so true. It's like, what is our intention? And I think there's a difference between knowing, let's say, knowing when you need to rest, as I did yesterday, um, and then
Hey,
just
Dan.
stay down. Yeah, I know. I know. And I'm not saying that I didn't feel at one point I thought to myself, I'm lazy, and then I shifted my thought pattern. I'm like, you're not you're resting. Those habits or those thoughts like intrude. And so not saying that, but this idea that, we have to do that if we're going to continue. And I loved what you shared about, that self-centered and being, of service only to self, that, and I think that that's to me the difference. There is a slight always of, oh, okay, if I do this, I'm serving myself, but I'm also better in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, that would be the world we would love to bring about, that we would love to see, right? So we keep putting out into the world those things that we um, would love to see. But I'm so proud of you for taking the time yesterday to care for yourself, because you need to replenish that energy too, and you're just as important and deserving of that love and compassion as the world as a whole is. So congrats to you for actually taking that time and nurturing yourself.
Well, thank you. Um, but it is, how interesting it is when you do it and those thoughts come in.
Hmm. Trust me, I know.
Like, okay, you know, um, this is, and how much, all of a sudden you realize how much, like, what you've heard through the years, what you've read, the people that you're around, and all those things influence um, from, all those people or, you know, the global society influence our way of thinking. And, it's very interesting to see that. And that's, why I think, we get these little like things that happen to us, which either force us to rest or kind of put us in that situation because I think we're supposed to have those conversations with ourselves. And,
Absolutely. And learning to recognize it in ourselves too. That's the other thing, because that's always been something that's been my challenge is that, I keep, you know, pressing it back, going, no, 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 no. You need to keep moving. You have to keep moving. But that learning to um give myself, as we spoken before about giving myself the same grace and ease as I would extend to others, is the key.
a- absolutely. They always say, you know, let's say, the dialogue and, your self dialogue, your self chatter, that inner chatter and the self conversation and the fact that you should be speaking to yourself how you would speak to a friend and how, in certain people, that's not successful at all. It's almost this kind of repelling kind of feeling. It's just not comfortable. It's beyond not comfortable. It actually, I think, creates almost this inner hostility that's worse. And um, that doing other things like just allowing space and, mindfulness and not actually talking to yourself about it so much sometimes is better. It's just is, and not saying ignore the feeling, but to, those words of like, you deserve it as just as much as anybody else. And all those phrases sometimes actually have a negative effect in certain people for, there's lots of reasons for that are given. And some of that is home environment and what people grow up with, and that a whole idea of what we spoke about, which was, success and achievement and all those things that, those words of like, oh, you should treat yourself like you would like speak to yourself as if you were, you were speaking to a friend. And, you feel like you want to gag. You You're like, oh my gosh, really? Part of it that happens in the brain is that you really don't believe it.
Yes.
Oh, it's like part of your brain is like, give me a break. Like, really, that doesn't work, and how you have to get creative sometimes to think of another way to actually like either talk to yourself or to allow yourself a little bit of self-compassion. And maybe it's not so much in doing that. Maybe it's like when you get there, like the conversation I had yesterday, which, maybe you bring in the logical brain, like when you sit there and say, you're lazy, and you sit there and you say, now, really, is that logical? Does that make any sense?
Oh, the things of the heart are not always the most logical, are they, Jan?
Not at all, not at all. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to like sit there and you have to kind of bring in that analytical brain, speaking from experience, obviously, that you're just like, really, like that's a little, you deserve a break, like
Yes.
you're not lazy, you know.
Exactly. You just brought to mind there's because you were saying, like conversation that we're having a dialogue with ourselves, which sometimes can be quite interesting. But a friend of mine always talks about it's like that dialogue that you're having. She says, that's the time when ego is talking, the striver, the one that's wants to drive the car, and you're saying, no, no, no. Okay, you little child, because it's comes from that root of the inner child, right? You get in the back seat, I'll belt you in because I'm driving the car today. So I just love that visual when she said that to me. I was like, I could just picture
That's right. I love that
you get
too.
in the car seat and I'll strap you in.
Right. I'm in control here. I don't,
Yes.
I don't,
It's
I
like,
don't need
it's
any
okay, I
help.
hear you.
I don't need any help at the moment.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. What a such an interesting perspective, and it's but really it is true, because really by, charity really does begin at home being self, often, and then home in the outer sense of being in your local environment, and home being this earth that we share all together. So just being kind, radiating that kindness, empathy, and compassion from in to without.
Absolutely. And I think that, for a moment, just think of, maybe a moment in time. This isn't the meditation yet, but a moment in time when you gave from an empty cup, like when you were not, you did not feel full, you did not feel nurtured. And just notice if you can recreate that feeling of how it felt. And then a time maybe when the opposite was, you gave, you felt rested, you know, and just notice how that felt within you. And then also maybe with yourself, like a time when you gave to yourself or a time when you felt depleted and you just kept on going. and just, notice what that feels like. And because we are sensory beings, so we work off of those sensations. And so we have to, sometimes if we think about it that way or feel that, then it's much easier for us to recreate it going forward. Mm, love that, Mary Jane.
Thank you for the beautiful reflections, Jan. Seems like I feel already like we're moving into the space of the meditation because you had us reflecting already. Shall we actually move to the meditation?
Sure. Absolutely. So take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable position, whether you're sitting tall with your feet on the ground or resting gently in a chair or wherever else you may be. Allow your eyes to soften or close if that feels right. Let your hands rest easily on your lap and take a slow, steady breath in and a soft, releasing breath out. Feel yourself arriving here and now. With each inhale, imagine drawing in nourishment, the breath itself, a gift to your body, a reminder that giving and receiving are a part of the same rhythm. With each exhale, release tension or expectation of what you think you should give and open up to what wants to flow naturally through you. With each breath, offer a gift to the world, exhaling gently to the plants, to the earth, to all living beings, sharing the life force within you with all that is around you. And bring your awareness to your heart and breathe gently into that space. Feel the quiet pulse of life moving within you. And here lies the source of giving, the well of compassion that lives within each and every one of us. When we nurture it, it grows. When we neglect it, it begins to run dry. So before we can serve the world, we must tend this well with care. Allow yourself to repeat silently, I nurture myself so I may give with love. I honor my needs so I may serve with strength. I fill my heart so it may overflow in kindness. Service is not always found in large gestures or global missions. Sometimes it's in the small daily acts, the time you give, the listening ear, the patience, the example you set by how you live. When you embody kindness, when you move through the world with awareness and care, you become a living example of charity in its truest form. Take another deep breath in, and as you exhale, imagine that kindness extended outward to your family, your community, your world. Remember, whether your focus is on global charities or those close to home, it is all charity. It is all love in action. Because at its root, the word charity comes from the Latin caritas, meaning love. Love that gives freely, love that uplifts, love that restores, a love that begins within. Take a few final deep breaths here, breathing in love for yourself, breathing out love to the earth, the plants, the people around you. Feeling the deep connection between your heart and the world. And when you're ready, slowly begin to bring your awareness back. Feel free to move fingers and toes. And gently open your eyes and carry with you the remembrance that when you nurture yourself, you sustain your ability to serve. When you act from love, every gesture, great or small, becomes an offering of charity.
Just want to take a moment now to sort of close out, or before our final closing, to share um, a poem named Love After Love by Derek Walcott. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life.
Thank you, Mary Jane. And thank you all for joining us today. Please take a moment to connect with Mary Jane and I, and everyone else here that joins us. Mary Jane and I have our LinkedIn Facebook groups called Spirit Born Imaginings. And it's just a heartfelt community whose mission is to share and embrace self-care, self-kindness, and self-love in a nurturing environment. So please feel free to join the group, share it with others. All these events, our member highlights, and other surprises are now on the Spirit Born Imaginings YouTube channel. So feel free to share those, comment if you like. The next Spirit Born Imaginings online workshop is actually this Sunday, October 19th at 2 p.m. Harvesting the Bounty Within. So please look for information in the comments or in the posts about that. We'd love to have you. There's still some space, so we would love for you to join us. And have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and a wonderful week ahead if we don't see you or hear from you. Um, Sending you lots of love and many blessings.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend, whatever it is that you decide to do.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
Al. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.